They say if you smell roses in an empty room at Liberty Hall, you've already met her. This is the story of how I found out they were right. Frankfort, Kentucky. It's a quiet little capital, nestled on the banks of the Kentucky River. It feels like a place where time slows down. And sitting right in its historic heart is Liberty Hall, one of the oldest and most beautiful mansions in the entire state. It was built way back in 1796 by a U.S. senator named John Brown. By day, this place is all Southern charm and American history. The sunlight streams through these huge antique windows, lighting up the dust motes dancing in the air. Portraits of proud, stern-faced men and women from centuries past stare down at you from every wall. It's a photographer's dream. But when the sun dips below the horizon and the long shadows of the trees stretch across the lawn, the house feels different. It gets quiet, a heavy, watchful kind of quiet, like the entire building is holding its breath, waiting for something. Now, I have to be honest. I wasn't there looking for ghost snot at first. Anyway, I was in the middle of researching old Kentucky legends for a side project. Liberty Hall was supposed to be the crown jewel of my trip, a place steeped in stories, but I assumed no real scares. At least, that's what I told myself. The caretaker was incredibly kind. She gave me permission to stay after hours, told me I could wander the grounds and take as many photos as I liked. But right before she left for the night, she paused at the door, turned back to me, and said, almost as a joke, "Just do me a favor and don't go near the west bedroom after dark." Of course, I had to ask why. She just gave me this small, tight-lipped smile. The kind of smile people give when they know something you don't and aren't sure they should tell you. "That's her room," she said. "That's where she visits." She didn't have to say the name. Everyone in Frankfort knows who she is. The lady in gray. Night fell fast, the way it does in the river valley. One minute there was a sliver of orange on the horizon. The next, it was pitch black outside. The house became silent, but it was a heavy silence, like the air itself was thick and listening. My own footsteps echoed way too loudly on the old wooden floors, announcing my every move. I started my work in the grand parlor downstairs, snapping photos of the antique furniture and the portraits hanging over the fireplace. Everything looked perfectly peaceful, frozen in time. That is, until my camera just shut off, completely dead. I checked the battery. It had been fully charged. Strange, but I figured it was just a glitch. And then the smell hit me. Roses. At first, it was faint, but it was sharp and unmistakable, enough to make the hairs on my arms stand up. It made no sense. There were no flowers anywhere in the house. I wasn't wearing any cologne, and the windows were all sealed shut. It was just that cold, sweet scent of roses, hanging impossibly in the air. And it was coming from upstairs, from the direction of the west bedroom. My heart started to pick up its pace, but my curiosity was stronger than my fear. I pulled out my phone, using its flashlight to cut through the oppressive darkness. The hallway upstairs felt degrees colder than the rest of the house. The beam of my light flickered against the old, patterned wallpaper, making the designs look like they were writhing. And then I saw it. the doorknob to the west bedroom. It began to turn, slowly, deliberately, by itself. The door let out a low, agonizing creak as it swung open, just enough for me to see inside. I could just make out the edge of a huge canopy bed and a pale curtain stirring, as if in a breeze, even though the room was completely sealed. My voice was barely a whisper when I called out, "Hello, is someone there?" Silence. A deep, profound silence that felt like an answer in itself. And then she stepped into view, a woman. She was tall, impossibly elegant, and wrapped in a long, flowing grey gown that seemed to shimmer and catch the moonlight filtering through the window. Her face was calm, almost serene, but her eyes were hollow, as dark as smoke. They were fixed directly on me. For what felt like an eternity, I couldn't breathe. I was frozen in place. She wasn't angry. She didn't look sad. She just looked lost, utterly and completely lost. She turned away from me, her movements slow and graceful, and walked toward the window. She raised a hand to the glass, as if she were waiting for someone who was supposed to be arriving from the dark garden outside. And then, in the blink of an eye, she was gone. She didn't fade away. She just vanished. The only thing left behind was that smell of roses, but it was stronger now. So strong, it was almost choking, filling the entire room. That's when the fear finally took over. I ran. I didn't even look back. I just bolted down the hallway, heart pounding against my ribs so hard I thought it would break. Every floorboard moaned and groaned behind me, sounding exactly like a second set of footsteps, trying to keep pace with mine. When I finally scrambled down the main staircase and reached the huge front door, I fumbled with the handle. It was locked, bolted from the inside, but I hadn't locked it. I never even went near it. The air around me went frigid again. My breath plumed in front of my face, a white cloud in the darkness. And that's when I heard a whisper, so soft, it was almost part of the silence, but it was right next to my ear. "Don't leave me." I spun around, my flashlight beam cutting wildly through the empty floor. There was no one there, absolutely no one. I've never unlocked a door so fast in my life. The next morning, I went back to return the key. I had to tell the caretaker what happened. As I recounted the story, the doorknob turning, the scent of roses, the woman in greyish just listened, nodding slowly. She didn't look surprised at all. She told me the legend. The lady in grey was once a guest at the house, a woman from Virginia who was visiting family. She fell suddenly and mysteriously ill and passed away right there in that west bedroom. She never left. For over 200 years, people have seen her, and they all say the same thing. She often appears right before a tragedy, almost like a warning, or as a final farewell. Maybe that's why she appeared to me that night. Or maybe, after all this time, she was just lonely. When I finally got home, I couldn't resist looking at my camera. I charged the battery, and to my surprise, it turned right on. All my photos from that night were there, crisp and clear, except for one, a photo I took of the west bedroom window. In the reflection on the dark glass, you can see a faint gray figure standing right behind me. And that's not even the strangest part. When I was unpacking my camera bag, something fell out onto the floor. It was a single rose petal. It was old, dry, and gray, but it still smelled faintly of her perfume. They call her the Lady in Grey, and she still walks the halls of Liberty Hall, forever waiting for the man who promised her he'd return and take her home. So, if you ever find yourself touring that beautiful, haunted mansion, and you suddenly catch the sweet scent of roses, my advice is don't follow it, because by the time you smell them, she's already found you. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures into the unknown. Stay safe out there.